watching BBC News at 9 with me, Carrie Gracie. The headlines.
Wealth gap. What is the first thing you think of when you think of the wealth gap? Rich people? The poverty line? Money? Corruption? I probably won't know what you think about it, so let me tell you what I know. It is the inequality in the wealth distributed among people, meaning some people own a big amount of the majority of the wealth in America while others barely own a fraction of it. The wealth gap is something that I've been learning about for a long time now. I learned about how it works and how the coronavirus pandemic has affected it. Today I will be sharing the solutions that I have seen people like researchers, economists, and sociologists have come up with. Firstly, taxing the top % of Americans who own most of the wealth in the United States. Secondly, another solution to decreasing the wealth gap is raising the minimum wage. These are the solutions I saw fit in order to decrease the gap of the wealth. I will now share why these are the best and the reasoning behind it. Yes, I agree that these people have worked very hard to become as successful as they are now, but that should not mean that they should own the majority of the wealth in America. One person does not need billions of dollars to live a luxurious life. That is simply too much money. Also, these successful people find loopholes around paying taxes at all. People in the top 10% earn a lot of income from unearned income. An example of unearned income is investing. This unearned income has a lower tax rate than earned income. Earned income meaning labored work. This is just one example of the many things that they do in order to not pay taxes. The tax percentage on earned income right now is 43.4%, while on unearned income, it is 23.8%. The majority of these wealthy Americans earn their income from unearned income. Another solution to fixing the wealth gap could be raising the minimum wage. How are people that are being paid such a low wage supposed to maintain themselves? While the costs for things like food, clothing, rent, and gas are going up, it is much harder to afford these things while the minimum wage stays the same. The year the minimum wage was created was 1938 as the Fair Labor Standards Act. The minimum wage has slightly gone up every 1 to 9 years. It's been 11 years now and it has stayed exactly the same, at $7.25. If the minimum wage is raised, then it would mean that people would start to earn more money and being able to afford rent more easily. Most workers who are being paid the minimum wage rely on things like government assistance like food stamps and Medicare. In the long run, raising the minimum wage would likely save the government a lot more money because they wouldn't be spending so much on government assistance. I agree that raising the minimum wage is a very hard thing to do, especially since a new law is required every single time to raise the minimum wage. So raising the minimum wage would mean introducing a new bill, and that bill would have to go through Republicans and Democrats, which would result in Democrats and Republicans agreeing on something, which is very unlikely. I acknowledge that raising the minimum wage would force small businesses to decrease the hours of their workers or even lay them off. Or worst case scenario, the small business would have to completely shut down. But if the minimum wage is raised slowly and steady, that wouldn't be such a big problem. Most people are hoping for the minimum wage to go from $7.25 to $15 an hour. I don't think that's possible. It would be a big change and would be really damaging if done so quickly. But if it is raised slowly, the owners of these small businesses would have time to adjust and adapt to each time the wage is raised, resulting in success. While the price for things like food, gas, and rent is rising, the minimum wage has stayed the same for 11 years. I think going from $7.25 to $15 an hour is a bit extreme, but if we continue to increase by cents or a dollar each year, it would become beneficial in the long run. The wealth gap is a very complicated thing to solve. It is made up of various variables that one has to keep in mind. If people are interested in helping to decrease the wealth gap and putting their minds together, it would become faster and a better process. I don't think one solution would fix this mess, but many solutions put together would. If people are interested in helping to decrease the wealth gap, it would become more efficient and faster. The solutions that I have researched upon I think are the most efficient and smart to solve such a big mess. Even though these solutions are controversial and a lot might disagree with me, I have an open mind to thinking about something else. For now, I think this is the best solution to solving the wealth gap. Thank you for joining me today on my segment of The Wealth Gap.